we are governed by those treaties that we sign. That is why I do not clearly understand out of the heat of the moment. Otherwise, you end up binding the nation in ways that it's very hard to pull out of. So I've talked about that. And all those, we sign up to them, and then we agree. In those signatures of those treaties, they've read that clause of how we resolve a conflict. Then the other conflicts are by industry or by nature. For example, I gave an example earlier on. If you have a marital issue, you may not be able to use ADR to resolve a marital issue. And you have agreed to the customary law. That means the customary law provisions are there for you. When it comes to business disputes, that's where the latitude is a bit free. Again, the parties decide depending on the complexity. Each method has its advantages and disadvantages. But for example, if, like I mentioned in the beginning, the dispute can be partial. We are constructing a 21-floor tower, or a road from here to Jinja, or a railway from here to Nakapitipirit. And there's a small dispute on quantities of BOQs, and this railway or a pipeline is going to feed into Kenya, Tanzania, whatever. And the dispute arises maybe with a subcontractor. If you delay in Uganda, you're going to delay in Kenya. If you delay in Kampala, you're going to delay in Tororo. So the best way to resolve such a dispute, for example, in infrastructure or engineering projects, would be adjudication. Maybe what's important to note in these different resolution, in some of the mechanisms I stated above, immediately it can be binding. In arbitration, in adjudication, just like court. It is as good as a court decision as long as enforceable in court. Yes. Enforceable in court. So if you want an enforceable decision, you want people to pay you money, you want them to cease and desist, you want them to put a caveat on a piece of... The other ones, though, like mediation, negotiation, conciliation, of course with the guidance of a professional. That which they choose to agree on, the professional writes it down into a settlement agreement. So that when you go to enforce it, it becomes as good as a binding order. But the professional has not taken the decision for you. They just help you to talk, to see eye to eye, to evaluate the facts with a neutral party, and whatever it is you are a contract or a project, but to resolve and move on. Because the whole philosophy for alternative dispute resolution is not just to resolve disputes, but to restore relationships. Yes. So that's what I would speak to that, on the choice.
On the choice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You've talked about this, and it's becoming interesting, not only in a business relationship, but even in inter-country relationships and even other kind of relationships. Now, we've seen now what informs someone's choice in choosing a dispute resolution or dispute management mechanism or method. And we've seen that sometimes it depends on the nature of transaction, the subject matter, and the nature of the dispute itself. Now, when a dispute arises, we've seen in Uganda we are still a little traditional, and we are still, many people are not yet informed about this entire alternative dispute resolution mechanism or alternative dispute resolution methods that are available. Dispute arises. What should someone first of all look out for? Because what I want us to understand, and what I want our listeners and viewers to know, is that if I engage in this amicable settlement, which is agreed upon between me and possible like a court given judgment, and if someone else goes against that settlement, what is the option available for me, the innocent party or the person who is entitled to benefit from the contract this professional helped us to draft?
Thank you very much, Luke. Once again, I would like to remind our listeners about party autonomy. When you choose the choice, when you make the choice of dispute resolution, every choice has its rules. It's like I'm going to Kampala, or I'm going to Ginger, or I'm going to Masaka. Each of them has its rules. When you choose the method, then you have chosen the rules, unfortunately. They become what you will follow. Much as there is party autonomy, it's within the confines of the law. Maybe to remind our listeners and viewers, alternative dispute resolution has been sanctioned by the Constitution of Uganda under the Arbitration and Conciliation Act. Much as it is party autonomy and freestyle, it is covered under the laws. So in the remedies, like you said, if someone fails to agree, if you choose mediation and you fail to agree with the party, the remedies are clear under the law. If you choose arbitration and you fail to agree with the parties, the remedies are there under law. What does that mean? That the best thing you can do, or the best insurance policy you can have, is one, educate yourself on the options available. But most importantly, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Find a professional who will help you and has your interest. As I sit here today, I dispel the fact that everything legal must be done by lawyers. I am not a lawyer, clearly.
That's what I was actually coming to.
Yes, but I can confirm that lawyers have their place in the legal space, in the litigation space, but not necessarily in the ADR space. So what a viewer should take away from here is the myth, and to debunk that everything a lawyer does must be done in court with a judge. That is on the international, in the business transactions, and all the other disputes that have been formed by a contract. So that is my recommendation, that these things have intricacies, but people have gone, have taken the time, have studied. There are professionals like me out there. Find one, get acquainted with the space, and let them guide you. But also, last on that point, is to remind these viewers and listeners that Uganda, being a pro-arbitration, pro-mediation, pro-ADR country, we have court annex mediation that is mandatory, at least of the mechanisms I've mentioned. So some matters, when you go to court, they send you directly to ADR and as a first resort. If you solve your problems there, well and good, then the court will enforce. If you don't, then you come back to court. So they've also appreciated the benefit in efficiency in time, cost, confidentiality. Arbitrations or mediations don't have to be attended by the public, by the TVs. They have a degree of privacy. So for traders out there who want to guard their trade secrets and you don't want all your business to be in Bukede tomorrow, ADR is the way to go.
Wow. Thank you so much. Because I was coming to that, and when you look at most of our activities and disputes that arise in Uganda, the business people in Uganda, the business people in downtown, the business people within Kampala, in Masaka, wherever, some of them fear court. That's a fact. So actually I was coming there that how can we help these people beyond looking at the court itself as only way to resolve their disputes or business relationship, business disputes. They can manage and resolve their disputes without necessarily resorting to court. But you've hinted on that it's not only a mandate of lawyers.
No, it's not.
We have other professionals. I have you today, and there are other people who can help these businessmen, business people out there handle their disputes amicably using the mechanisms you pointed out without necessarily resorting to court. So just in a brief or in a summary, what are some of the highlights that you can point out to our viewers and listeners before we can wrap up the show? What are some of those pointers, ranging from when these people are entering into their transactional relationship or any other kind of relationship? When can they start talking to one another? When there is something that seems to cause a conflict? And how can they go about? What is the relevance of a third party that we are going to seek the profession in helping us reach an amicable settlement? In a nutshell or in a summary? In a summary,
to our viewers and listeners, one, conflict and dispute are inevitable in relationships. And they're not necessarily a bad thing if they are handled well. So my advice would be to have an open mind about what conflict is and what it is not. Because sometimes you argue over this or dispute over issues, and even bring them before an arbitrator, only to tell you that this doesn't amount to a dispute. So after that, the other thing is to avoid, where you can, again, there are mechanisms that proactively, engineering, infrastructure, constructions, quantity surveying, are using this method very well. Before a dispute arises, there are ways, indicators, matrices. People have worked out risk matrices where they can say, oh, something might arise. And they give you coping tools, and they equip you in advance. So the first thing would be to gag or gauge against conflict itself, especially in projects where you have dispute avoidance boards in place, where it's like you always on the lookout, where is the problem going to come from, so we proactively manage it, and this is how we manage to avoid. But should it happen and pass through the filter of your avoidance board, and it actually happens, please, the insurance against conflict going out of hand is having a dispute resolution clause that is well drafted. If you draft a clause that is going to send you to China or Singapore to resolve a conflict, where you need a translator, air tickets, stay in a hotel for 20 days. So you have to be smart in the sense of make the resolution practical. Maybe to quickly say that if you don't feel comfortable in Uganda or with professionals in Uganda, we have bodies in Kenya, Rwanda, where so learn about this for the business people, or in case your partners come from different countries, so you don't get sucked into always running to London. Yes. You know the cases in this country that have been, maybe we have won them, but very expensively. Yes. And then lastly, educate yourself, but allow the professionals to do their work. They see, can I say with a third eye, things that you definitely overlook, a professional will have a keen eye on that. So that will be my recommendation. Avoid the dispute where you can. When you must incorporate a clause, let it be professionally done. You may not even get a lawyer to draft your whole contract if you think it doesn't need them. You've been soliciting these nigginas for years. But that clause of dispute resolution between you and the importer from China, let somebody look at it. Terms and conditions for banks, telecoms, we are all always signing, I agree, I agree, I agree, and you've not read the fine print. The people who are out there who make it their everyday work to understand, especially with these IT agreements, everything you say, I accept, you don't know what you're accepting to.
Yes. Thank you so much, Madam Nanza. It was a pleasure hosting you. The subject and the topic of discussion today is quite relevant to our business people and the business community in Uganda. Thank you so much for helping us understand the entire aspect of dispute, when they arise, how do we manage them, how do we, if they have gone through the net of management, how do we resolve them without necessarily resorting to court, and those people who can actually ably help us manage and resolve these disputes. Thank you so much to our listeners and our viewers. This was the edition of the FAT Talks by FLI, where we talk about subjects that matter, subjects that concern us in our day-to-day lives, subjects and topics that concern our business communities, subjects that point us to the right people to approach when we face a certain challenge in life, in our business relationships, in our day-to-day activities. Thank you so much. I was your host, Luke Kamoga. We meet again next time.
Smart 24, driving business.
This is Jordan. When it comes to classwork, Jordan is magic. Jordan shines. Jordan makes his peers better. Jordan is a true leader. White Star Magic family, be a leader, be magic.
Your best football friend has something special for you.
This is unbelievable.
On the 21st and 22nd September, Premier League is open for you to enjoy. Experience a friendship like no other with 8 live games on GoTV Plus and up. Get closer to the game with expert analysis, live match commentary and stats. Come back to your BFF GoTV for all the drama and world-class Premier League action. Only on SuperSport on GoTV. Love it.
Yellow, this is MTN. We are currently in Nakaloke, Mbale District, Bilari, Nursery and Primary School. We are here to award a winner, and our winner